Did you ever feel like you wanted to go somewhere? Like now? You were going somewhere? Like right now? There was a little Cinderella once who dreamt about somewhere to go. Once upon a time, there was this little girl, Cutie, who was very much like Cinderella. She had a laborious life and spent a lot of her time in the dirt. Ever since she could remember, she always dreamed someday of meeting her true love. You know how it goes. And she liked to think of her love like a handsome prince, of course. You could say that she had a feeling about this guy as a Prince Charming, a beautiful, glowing, brave hero type. Prince Charming who would be smart and witty and full of laughter and gaiety and tempest like the storms. He would be like all the elements in the world, and he would most be the one who would give her everything that she wanted, that she never had. Not since she lost her mother. She was a good little hard worker, and she built up a lot of optimism. And yet she would always say to herself, "Oh, I don't know. Oh, I don't know." And at every opportunity, she set out to discover just what it was that she didn't know. It seemed that she was never able to ask for what she wanted, what she really wanted, because she had always been told, no. No. And so she never, ever did get to know how to get a yes. And so, like that, she was somewhat poorer than the rest. She rejected closeness or avoided it as such as it often meant being hurt by the hand that loves you, or so they say. And so she was living much like a desert person, starving for physical comfort and nourishing. She felt sad and she was alone. And deep inside, she was really afraid. She always felt hungry for something. One day in school, the teacher asked the class, "How many of you go to bed hungry at night?" She was the only one who put up her hand, embarrassed, confused. She might not have ever really felt satisfied. It's hard to know if she even knew what that meant. Her kids were always hungry. They're poor. Lots of their needs don't get met. Not enough of this, not enough of that. Don't do this, don't do that. Can't go here and can't go there. She goes through a lot of suffering over their conditions, over their suffering. Only hers is much fuller than in her belly. She tries to breathe fulfillment. It's an easy thing to do. It's an easy thing to get. Sometimes when she tells her story, she gets that little squeak in her voice. She finds that in poverty she is not a lone soul, and she wonders, and she asks herself, what's it all about? What is it all about? Why doesn't it work out? Well, we all know, don't we, what they say about you don't know until you know. And it ain't over till it's over. She knew somewhere she had a dream because everybody has a dream. Only if you had asked her, she would have said, I don't know. And although she didn't know it, she had been set out on a journey to find out what it was that she didn't know. And although it seemed like a little question, it also seemed to have a very big answer. The thought of it, of poverty and all, didn't begin to match the suffering of the living of it, the learning of it by being it. She used to dream about crossing the desert. She really didn't know why she dreamt of crossing the desert, but it was a daydream that she really loved, the idea of, the dream of the possibilities of doing just that. When she was a young woman, she had a dream, but she didn't know it at the time. It was kind of like the same dream that she had had before, Prince Charming, only she had a clear idea of just who he might be, what he might be like, and all of that kind of stuff. On a hike in the forest, she chanced a prince who sang a tale of a knight who would be true, and she lived in the night, longing for the sun. Fairy Godmother said, wishes you can have. Your wishes. Beloved, you can have your wishes. And she remembered the story of Jiminy Cricket singing that song, when you wish upon a star, when your heart is in your dream comes true. La, 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 la. And she always wondered what that meant. And you know how they say, be careful what you ask for. You just might get it. They never tell you how you're going to get it. And how is it that you ever get anything, if not by having it? And if you have it, does it mean you can lose it, or does it mean that it's yours? And she wondered, what shall I wish for? What shall I wish for? What do I really want? What do I really want? And she got a notion that she wanted to have some fun. And she wanted to go dancing and meet the prince. And she did miss the prince. Did she ever like the prince when she was feeling like a princess in the eye of the prince? But the magic hour had passed, and there she was, back to the reality of finding out what life is all about, and wishing that there was some way she could make it better, and wondering, could it ever be better? Could it be better? Could it really be like that? Could it be like that? Do dreams and wishes come true? Do they? Could it be like that? Well, what if a wish is nothing but a want? Now that I would say not merely a want, but indeed a want indeed. Ever think of that? Indeed. In the deed, in doing or having what you want. Yes, indeed. Indeed, she was an optimist. Well, why not? So she struggled, asking all along, why? Trying to get to the why not. But the answer was in the why not. And that took her into the knot and held her there till she found what she was looking for. She loved castles, and in ways she lived in them, and she dreamed of a palace. She really didn't know what that palace would look like, although she had visions of polished stone and pillars. Oh, and just like the movie Restoration, wanting all the good things in life. Trapped in a forest. In a forested situation. A social thing. When she was younger, they used to say, you can't see the forest for the trees. And now that she was in the forest, she started to see that. She had to look beyond the forest in order to see it. And so she set out for the desert to gain a different perspective, to see the big picture. And that's when she really got to know what no and knowing was all about. She embarked on her journey willingly, accepting the risks at hand and underfoot, because she valued finding out what it was that she wanted, what it was that she wanted to know. She had to get there. And so she packed her fear into a little bag and set out on her mission. The people of the world would called out and said, "What's wrong with you? Oh, there must be something wrong with you." And she believed them. She almost died out there. It wasn't until after she had left the safety of her folk and all that she had known that she started to realize, she began to realize her worst fears. And you know what they say about taking the journey. There's no turning back once that journey begins. And she found that although her fears had been great, they were no match for her deepest fear of all, which was dying out there, unhappy and alone. She had no choice now, once the journey had begun, but to meet the challenge if she were going to make it. And although she hadn't known, in a way, she had everything she needed. She almost did die out there in the desert, save for some spirits of a kind that came along and rescued her. She slid off her camel. Oh, I can't. And quite by a miracle, some kindly spirit came upon behind her, and with steady hand pushed her back up onto the camel. And since she was already off of her rope, she was less resistant to them roping her onto her mighty steed. The one they said knew the way. Let the camel take you. Let your guide take you. Your guide knows the way. And so she put her faith and trust, for it was all that she could do now for herself, into the hands of her friend and guide, her mighty steed, who had been given her by the powers of the universe. And on they traveled, their head hanging low. She had seen the oasis in the distance and was so happy finally at last to arrive, only to discover it was all an illusion. She sees her prince in the distance coming for her. He looks a lot like a lean, hungry cat, wild in mane, tame in vein, a fire in his eye. And she loses him too to the mountain desert. Shimera, Chimera, with the wasted land. As good as it looked, it wasn't really where it's at. Not for her. One of the boys back home said it was an English thing. She wondered what that meant. And although before she was not rich, she found that now she was really suffering, and she worried about her welfare. Out there in the barren lands, she was really hungry, thirsty, so much she was starving. What she really needed was, she needed to know, she needed to make it, and she needed to get there. And she pondered about after all, how's it all going to turn out? How is it going to turn out? There wasn't much she could do but press on ahead, searching for her life in the future, looking to find the real oasis of her dream. And when she felt that she couldn't go on, like a bolt out of the blue, as the light shone down on her, the brilliant golden sun, hot and dry and burning, she knew that it was her life in the moment that would get her there, and there wasn't much else she could do but take the help as offered, even as she was not sure about getting hitched again. She found that the only thing that she had left other than her desire was the need to trust in the forces of her nature. And she almost died to find that out. And then a funny thing happened on the way to the forum, you know the old one. She found out because she made it to her oasis, following the lead by letting go of what she thought the journey might be and allowing it all to unfold along the way. She had been impoverished by the thoughts of her mind until she found herself in this situation where her only thought became survival, the survival of her heart. Could she keep it beating long enough to make the journey and return home? Home. And it's a wonder about where her home might be. Is it true what they say, that home is where the heart is? Don't they often say that? Charity begins at home. She wanted to live. She wanted to have a good life. She wanted to have some fun. And she wanted to cross the desert. She wanted to make it to the party of the oasis, even though she had nothing to offer but herself. And she wasn't alone. And she took the help that she needed, finally getting clear on just what it was that she wanted. And in simple truth, she not only had asked, she had received. Yes, beloved, had received the gift of life, the true gift of life in chasing her dream. And boy, were they glad to see her when she finally got there. She could hear it all. Eastern flow, mystical enchanting place, where the bells of joy were ringing loud, and on high. All her life she had kept asking, and she had kept on receiving, even though she hadn't known it until she had finally made it across the desert in her life, and found that she had been given the greatest gift of all, because she had been given the opportunity to find what she wanted. And in finding, and indeed going for it, going after it, she found herself. Little cutie. And at last she knew who she was, and she knew that now she could do anything. She could have what she wanted, wishes of the heart come true. When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. When your heart is in your dream, Lady Luck brings fate to see you through. It makes a difference what you do. When your heart is in your dream comes true. La 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 la. La 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 la. To see her when she finally arrived, and they partied it up. Music, dancing, you could hear it all. In that Eastern style, a mystical, enchanting place. And while they partied and danced and carried on, with aromas filling the air, a sense of spices and perfume, and liquors and incense and smokes burning. She slept. under the trees of the oasis, she met her prince. And she didn't really know where he came from. He was just there. And together, they walked hand in hand to the giant door of the walled city. Giant door. Eastern golden glowing. Molten passion. Fires burning. They walked hand in hand through the gates of the walled city. And she had arrived. She had come home. One of the boys at her humble home had said, "Poverty is without pound." And now she laughed to herself in an English sort of way, knowing that if you make it to the door would open. All you had to do was knock. She did indeed have a lot more pound in her hand than she ever would have imagined. And all that she needed in her life, she found in her pockets. Out of the woods and into the eastern sun shining. When she looked in her hand, she found that what she had had all along was gold. So they say, all fairy tales were once true. And it could happen to you. Safe